I hope you can all hear me okay. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
The panel is nodding. Great. Well, welcome. I'm going to introduce you all. And when I introduce you, if you could just open your camera, give us a wave and make sure we can hear you. So firstly, I'm going to introduce you, Joseph, if that's okay. If you could say hello.
Hello, hi everyone.
Ah, perfect. We can hear you. Great. Joseph Price joins us from UNEP, the United Nations Environment Programme, a very important stakeholder here, and he's a policy specialist and a real background in both policy and research, and particularly politics of natural resources. So welcome, Joseph.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for the introduction.
Of course. And Elke, if you could open up your mic. Hi.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We can hear you loud and clear. So Elke Hahn is joining us as her position in IENE, of course, and has been chair since 2023, and really a landscape planning specialist, and working in, of course, the ministry. So welcome, Elke.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the invitation.
Great. Eva, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here. Hello, everybody.
Hello, hi. Eva Valerie, she's joining us today, who's and can talk to us a lot about the transport economics in particular and environment policy, and has got a really robust academic background as well. And so we'll particularly hear from you a lot about the regulation authority piece and hear your views on that. So welcome, Eva.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
And Adel.
I'm here. Hello.
Hello, welcome. Secretary General for the European Energy Research Alliance and Professor of Energy Geopolitics at the Free University of Brussels. So lots of expertise, particularly on the energy space and indeed the clean energy transition. So welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
Great. And last but not least, we've got Hildegard.
Hello, can you hear me clear?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Thank you. Hildegard Meyer, who's from WWF, Central and Eastern Europe, who's been there a long time and is a great ecologist specialist, and has lots of experience in working in collaboration with a broad range of partners and organizations. So really understands this stakeholder engagement piece and the importance of that, and has been a great help in the Reverse project as a member of our advisory board there as well. So welcome, Hildegard.
Thank you very much. And also thank you for the invitation.
Great. Now, you've been listening in, I think, to the conversations we've been having around the work packages, hopefully with interest. So I'm going to really to go to you all in turn, if that's okay. Firstly, just to briefly, you can talk about your organization and your sort of interest in this project, and give us a little bit of your first impressions about what you've heard today, about the work packages that you've heard about, what's exciting about them, what do you think are the big opportunities for you and for your input into them, and do you see any gaps perhaps? So I'm going to come to you first, Joseph, if that's okay.
Sure, yeah, thanks again. So I work in the Resources and Markets branch of UNEP, the UN Environment Programme, and everything we do really in the organization as a whole relates back to the triple planetary crisis. So that's climate change, biodiversity, and pollution crises. And specifically on infrastructure, the mandate or the entry point for our work comes from UN Environment Assembly resolutions on sustainable and resilient infrastructure. So the team that I'm part of works on coordinating the implementation of those resolutions. And to do that, we work directly with governments, so the UN member states, as particularly ministries of environment, but also other infrastructure-related ministries, and then other infrastructure stakeholders as well. So that's where I'm coming from on this topic. In terms of an overview of my impressions, I think, yeah, very, very comprehensive, definitely very useful for our work as well. I'd say it'll be interesting to learn about the good practices emerging out of Europe as a region on this topic and these sectors particularly. I think the project aligns well with our international good practice principles for sustainable infrastructure. in the UN, and particularly Principle 4, which is about avoiding environmental impacts and investing in nature. And that covers considerations like protecting and enhancing biodiversity, prioritizing nature-based solutions. So I think there's some very clear links there. We'll also be interested to hear more about and to follow the toolkits and the data coming out on nature-based solutions and their scaling that I think was mentioned in work package 3. We have our own ongoing work as well on nature-based infrastructure specifically, and how it contributes to the Paris Agreement and the goals of the Global Biodiversity Framework and the Sustainable Development Goals as well. So we'll be interested to hear insights from transport and energy sectors as related to that. And I just conclude by saying broadly, I think it's really pleasing to see the links and integration being made between biodiversity, but also climate. As I mentioned in UNEP, it's all about the triple planetary crisis. So that includes biodiversity, climate, pollution as well, but really important for us to see those interconnections between these different crises. So I'll stop there to begin with. Hopefully that's given a bit of feedback to begin. Happy to, looking forward to hearing from others as well.
Great, thank you, Joseph. That's perfect. Elke, if it's okay, I'll come to you if you're ready.
Thanks a lot. Yes, to start with, I would like to tell you a little bit about IENA. I think it's well known, but nevertheless, we are a network of people. Well, IENA means Infrastructure and Ecology Network Europe. We are a bunch of people working in this field. The main aim of this network and our work is to share knowledge, to share best practices, to give people working in that field an arena to communicate and collaborate together. The founders of IENA found out like 25 years ago, that there is a lot of misunderstanding, for example, between engineers and ecologists, that we don't speak the same language, that a corridor for infrastructure planner is something completely different than a corridor for an ecologist. So what we aim to do is to share this knowledge, to find new knowledge and to share it. So of course, this project gives us a great, or it looks like a great opportunity to increase capacity building and stakeholder involvement, which is one of our main interests and topics. I'm looking very much forward to see the development of this knowledge hub. But also we try to implement things. I mean, a lot of paper is produced, but we can only improve and enhance biodiversity if we really bring solutions on the ground. So I'm also very interested in these nature-based solutions. That sounds very promising. And Joseph said it before me, but also for me, this combination of climate change and biodiversity, I believe that's the only way forward we can go. I'm from Austria. In Austria, in the political level, it's more seen as an either or. We have to focus either on climate change or on biodiversity. We can't solve both. So I think this combination is the crucial way forward. So I'm very much looking forward to see the development of this project. It's very promising. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. I'll come to you next, Eva, if that's okay. I think you've got some slides to share as you introduce your point of view. So we're going to get those up for you now, I think.
If it's possible, otherwise it doesn't matter. I can quickly introduce my
we have
institution.
Have it. We can see, I don't know if you can see them, but we can see your first slide.
Okay, I cannot see it, but it's not a problem because I remember them. So just I will ask you to go through them. So yes, so I work at the European Union Agency for Railways. I joined last year. The agency was established in 2004, headquartered in Valenciennes, France, and we are about 200 employees. So we support the development. of the, here we go, next slide. The single European railway area by enhancing technology compatibility and safety across EU railway systems. At the same time, of course, we set technical specification for interoperabilities. As an example, here I included the specific requirement for noise reduction and energy efficiency in rolling stock infrastructure. And of course, we work at the development of what is called ERTMS, that is the Rail Traffic Management System for Europe. In addition to these activities, more technical, let's say, we are also monitoring the rail transport trends and dynamics. So we provide, we develop and provide reports also regarding environmental issues. So as here I just mentioned the last two, so the fostering the railway sector through the European Green Deal, in particular with the focus on synergy between rail and ports, and the last that we publish, let's say last July, is the first rail environmental report. And it is because of this, thanks for going through the next slide, that I came across, let's say, this this project, this interesting project. So as you can see, quickly, this is the content of the report. There are 4 areas: the trends, the beginning, the impacts, the path and the measure to sustainability, and ending with the adaptation measures. So as you can see in the impact, we started to include, of course, the nature conservation and biodiversities, based mainly on the review of the existing documentation. So of course here we use the UIC huge reports and insights, as well as the European Environmental Agency. So moving on to the next slide, because of we would like to keep, let's say, to update this report every 2 or 3 years, and of course carry out additional reports. Let's say that we found with my, let's say, colleague Idras Pagan, who lead the environmental report, and my colleague Torben Hall, but quite interesting, the, let's say, the description of, and of course the presentation the other speaker gave before. And so we are particularly interested in the identification, quantification of benefits and adverse effects at the same time of rail infrastructure on biodiversity, with the challenge of the data collection. And another point is impact assessment, so policy evaluation. I'm doing impact assessment, ex post evaluation for the agency recommendation and the European regulation. So it would be great to include indicator related also to biodiversity. I was happy to see in Pinar's in a slide of Pinar presentation about the case study about landslip and inclusion of biodiversity measure in order to rebuild. So one of the tasks that we do is also the quantification of accidents. So it would be great also to provide further detail on the environmental related to costs. And last but not the least, but mainly related to another, let's say, project that we are thinking to carry out, is regards the resilience, the infrastructure resilience, that is a topic. So concluding, but sharing also the first impression, I would like to say that it's the project has a clear and well-structured objective. So you started with the societal challenges, including the revision of the regulation, maybe at a different level of governance. Then the second point you mentioned is the data collection, that is key, with the whole challenges of digitalization, standardization, integration that you mentioned. And last but not the least, to provide operational toolkits, guidelines. Of course, also the stakeholders engagement and the communication are key, but all of these aspects are already included in your, let's say, project. So congratulations, and I'm really happy to be here. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, Eva. That's really clear. It's a great pleasure to have you with us as well. So thank you. Adel, if you're ready, go ahead.
I am. Thank you very much. So good afternoon, everybody. So I'm, in fact, leading ERA. So ERA is the European Energy Research Alliance. And what we are is an association of about 250 research centers and universities across Europe, which are active in researching on the energy transition. And we advise the European Commission on basically on its climate energy strategies. What makes us maybe a little bit different from traditional EU association is that we're not just representing here a sector, we are running a number of research programs. In fact, we have 18 international research programs where researchers from across Europe work together on joint research agendas, and they produce really what we believe is in Europe, it's leading edge knowledge on, I would say, all technologies, but more than technologies, areas pertaining to the clean energy transition. What's very important is that our mission is really a societal mission. It's about it's reaching a net zero society by 2050, which means that it's not only about technology. Of course, this is the core of our activities, but we're also having a number of programs which are looking into non-technology related aspects. And in particular, we pay a lot of focus on social science and humanities. And this, of course, includes the aspect of social acceptance for the transition, but much more than that. And to give you an example, we are, for instance, convinced that there is no way we can reach net zero just by better technologies. We need also to induce a very significant transformation of the society, which includes very strong behavioral change. And for instance, by developing the concept of sufficiency, which is really reducing basically our demand for energy in the first stage. So of course we have a lot of common points with or interest in this project. As I said, we see that as a societal transformation. So definitely all the aspects, the social aspects, I think will be quite common with this project. We see it also as a systemic transformation, meaning that reaching net zero will involve. It's not about the energy sector; it's about energy in the human activities, which means we need to consider the emissions from all sectors. And of course, we know how much transport is a very important sector in terms of emissions. Our interest is definitely to link with this sector, which is probably one sector which we know a little bit less than others. And we see it, of course, of particular importance because, and I would mention, nobody mentioned it, but in the introduction of the LETA report, one of the first things he says is he was surprised that to travel in Europe, joining the main cities, it was impossible to do it without taking the plane. And that one of the first things he would recommend is to have a high-speed network of trains between all the capitals or important cities, which is absolutely obvious. So I see definitely that, I mean, this project of having, you know, an important network of high-speed train is really this kind of infrastructure project, which will bring, you know, more integration within Europe. Big projects, big integration projects, big investments, but also which will be predictive of, you know, a transformation of the society and of more competitiveness. I'll come to that point maybe later in the further questions. Climate crisis, we mentioned biodiversity, and this is absolutely essential. We see this link as being fundamental. And we all know, I think, in the audience and certainly in the board, that the biodiversity crisis is probably even much more serious than the climate crisis itself, although they're of course interlinked. And for us, it's very important, the biodiversity, because the clean energy transition has a lot of impact also on the land use. And this, first of all, because of the deployment of renewable infrastructure, and we know that this is very much consuming much more than the traditional infrastructure, first of all, and also because, and this is probably a little bit less known, but if we want to deploy all these infrastructure of low carbon technology, it means enormous mining requirements, which has huge impacts on the land and on biodiversity. So this is something we see as very important. So maybe I will stop here to allow for progressing in the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Edel. That's some really slightly different point of view from the energy point of view, and so it's really helpful to have you to bring us in that space. And I don't know how we'll remember how to get between era and era, but we'll try.
Maybe I forgot to mention something which probably should have gone first. It's the fact that we speak about a transport infrastructure here, but in fact, implicitly it means freight and physical transport. What of course is really at the core also of the discussions in this whole transformation is the energy transport network, and this means the power network, but also the gas networks. Gas being either natural gas, biogas, or carbon for carbon storage, carbon dioxide for carbon storage, and of course. I'm sure that there are a lot of synergies in tackling the problem of deploying this infrastructure one with another.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you. Okay, well, I'll come to you, Leslie Hildegard, if that's okay. You have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have to regret that I could not come to Paris, so yeah, I'm here online. I'm working for WWF Central and Eastern Europe, which is based in Vienna, and we have collaborations with many other WWF offices in the Danube-Carpathian region, Bulgaria, Hungary, Romania, Slovakia, Ukraine, and just recently we also have started to work in the Czech Republic. As you might know, this region is characterized by large natural landscapes with still a high degree of biodiversity and also ecological connectivity. 1/3 of European large carnivores are harbored there, and we dedicate our work to safeguard the natural treasures of this region. And we have some focus on, we have a freshwater team, a forest team, a wildlife team, climate, governance, infrastructure, markets, and funding. So we are working on the ground, doing work in the field or at the local level. We are also working at the national level, at the political level and policy level, but also within the European Union, we have a network of WWF collaborators working there. And we have been leading as WWF CEE 4 projects on ecological connectivity. One has just started, and one of these projects was dedicated to linear transport infrastructure. And this is also why our collaboration with UIC started back in 2020. So we have a memorandum signed, and since then we are contributing to various projects where we contributed to the 2 publications of the Reverse project. So I find opportunities for input here for the project. So we have a network of people that are interested to work on sustainable infrastructure development in the Danube-Carpathian region. We definitely are ready to disseminate project results and involving relevant stakeholders. We see that this is a very important topic of the project. WWF has also an internal network across the globe working on sustainable transport infrastructure, offering a platform for exchange and knowledge. For example, we are also working on nature-based solutions now in Ukraine, which has this, where the background is not so easy at all, but we try to find good solutions for rebuilding. And then we are also part of an infrastructure and nature coalition that was founded in 2020. I think one UNEP part is also UNEP is also part of it. And we provided online seminars on the topic with case studies across the region. And for this year, we are also preparing to contribute. We can offer exchange and knowledge expertise between all these. And for me, the highlight of the project, or something that I really like to hear, is that you take circular economy into account, which I think is a really forward-looking way of dealing with things, seeing that materials keep in a circle. yeah, and I also see some indicators for vulnerability for the development of the tools. I'm very curious how this will be, what kind of indicators these will be, and how you will engage with stakeholders maybe to discuss this. I think this is very important. And I think this is a very important project since also the European Union wants to extend and improve the railway network, and we are now turning to a renewable energy and to find some solutions to integrate biodiversity and also climate change issues in this developing project. I think this process. I think this is a very important contribution from your side. Thank you.
Thank you, Hildegard. Great. Okay, so what a great range of experts to be involved in this project. So thank you for this time, and we're going to jump, I think, to a first sort of area of discussion, which is capacity building. So it kind of speaks to Work Package 2 in particular, and so I wanted to sort of hear from some of you who are active in this space, what you think really the needs are in terms of capacity building. What are the audiences in your networks and beyond that you think that could really benefit from the kind of capacity building activities that we've been talking about today? So Joseph, I'll come to you first, and then perhaps Elke and Adel might want to comment as well, or anyone else. Joseph.
Sure, yeah, thanks. See, I think the obvious ones are practitioners on the ground, so engineers, environmental scientists, contractors, planners, but also I'd just comment on policymakers as well. So beyond the obvious sectoral ministries, I think some of the powerful economic ministries like Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Public Works are also quite critical as well for enabling sustainable infrastructure and different types of solutions like nature-based infrastructure. I think they need a strong economic rationale and tools and methodologies to help them make decisions on integrating biodiversity into infrastructure decision making. So I think, in addition to the more obvious ones, practitioners on the ground, I think keeping in mind the policymakers and the higher level central government ministries is important as well. In UNEP, we've been working directly with ministries of environment too, but also ministries of public works in Africa and Latin America, and they've definitely shown a strong interest on this topic, including as biodiversity and nature-based solution relates to transport specifically. So I think they would potentially be interested in learning from the experiences and insights from the European region, and potentially training as well. I'll just mention as well that UNEP is a core member of the Infrastructure Sustainability Learning Initiative, which I know will be represented by ICSI, International Coalition for Sustainable Infrastructure, contributing to Work Package 2. So through that, we'd be very happy to make connections to our global networks and our expertise more globally as well. It's essentially a case-based learning initiative which helps to develop virtual communities of practice around different topics or geographies. So just wanted to mention about ISLE as well, and we'd be happy to support in the background through there. Finally, I'll just mention too that UNEP is part of the consortium for a new global environment facility program that's led by WWF USA, in fact. It's called Greening Transportation Infrastructure Development. And within this program, there will also be a number of country projects from around the world, as well as a global platform. And that's essentially designed to provide knowledge management, technical support. So again, I think two-way exchange with this project with SYMBIOSIS could be very beneficial as well, sharing the experiences from different parts of the world and sharing capacity building resources too. So I think, yeah, those are the main areas from our work and some of the main actors that I would highlight from our perspective.
Great, thank you. And Elke, if you have anything to add to that from your side?
I think it's difficult to add something because I think you wrapped it up pretty completely. I think it's what you said, Joseph. It's the two fields that we have to focus on. Maybe add a third one. One is the practitioners and the administrations that give approval on project level. I think an impact assessment can only be as good as the capacity the people have. On the other side, I think the second level you mentioned, the decision makers and policy makers, it's crucial to get them on board to achieve changes in policy. And also, seen from the Austrian perspective, we do have good laws in Europe, but we can only implement them really good if there is a according political will. So we do need to get politicians and decision makers on board to make them understand how important this topic is. And the third level that came in my mind was society, because I think we also have to get in touch with society and try to get them on board, because very often on the project level, it's more like you have to protect us humans, our settlements, and not so much nature, because it's not that important. So in Austria, we feel that a lot, that the value of nature and biodiversity is not so much appreciated in the broad society. So I think that is maybe one aspect that I could add to what Joseph said before.
Great, thank you. I don't know if Adol, you'd like to sort of comment from your side? Yeah. Oh, we can't hear you.
Sorry, no, I certainly agree with all what was said. I would maybe just add something, and this is linked to, of course, let's say, our activity. Definitely policymakers is a very important audience. But from our perspective, what is also very important is the research community, because it's precisely from the research community that you could embed all this consideration into the design of the solution, being technological solution or others. And so this is really something that we see as a big added value in sharing, let's say, intelligence with you on this project.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, well, in the interest of time, I'm going to jump on perhaps now to sort of conversation around work package 3 a little bit more, and particularly the practical tools side of things. And so it's one of the main objectives indeed of this project is to really provide those practical tools. So just wanted to get some comment perhaps from Eva and Hildegard first. What kind of tools have been effective in boosting biodiversity that you're aware of, and particularly across the EU? And yeah, just to share some thoughts, particularly on the practical tools that could be effective here.
I think practical tools are very important when it comes down to the implementation of biodiversity-friendly infrastructure, and not only. Important for this development of such practical tools is actually in the beginning to invite all the stakeholders that in the end will use it, and to have a co-creation process about it. That makes a lot of ownership, that makes involvement of those who really will hopefully use it in the end, because this is always a problem, right? We have a lot of tools and we see many of them are in the drawer. But I think to avoid this, it's really a recommendation from my side to start co-creation with those who really need to or want to implement this, and also involve people of different fields of professions. So knowledge on biodiversity, the technical knowledge, spatial planners, I don't know, some other people who have experience in environmental matters like, I don't know, CO2 emissions or whatever. And we also can see that tools are a kind of guidance to think through a problem and find solutions. So you have tools, and it guides you through the discussions. It tells you what you need to think about, and to. I mean, I'm here in a very concrete example, because we are working on the ground, and I see some problems there. So I'm trying to illustrate them here. And I think also this ultimate solution can only be found by discussing together with all relevant stakeholders. So really broaden up your stakeholders and try to work with them. I think it's very exhausting and very complex, but I think this is the way how we can get forward, to raise awareness, to give them a voice, and at the same time to get technical input in from those who have the idea, who have the profession behind, and yeah. And what tools have been effective? I mean, I can talk about our projects that we had, and we have, for example, a tool developed that guides professionists or consultants that are involved in environmental impact assessment and strategic environmental impact assessment and appropriate assessment, with a focus on how to consider ecological connectivity in this assessment. So these tools were used, we know about it, and there are also indicators have been developed and a ranking system that guides you through the decision process. And this helped us to elaborate a good decision for the Romanian motorway number 8 that is in the planning process. And as well, we also, before the war in Ukraine, we were able to use this tool when planning a bypass around the Lviv region. And I also think if these are pilot tools, let's say, it's always always difficult maybe to scale up this, but it's always good to have a basis, because every problem is a little bit of a different problem if you look from this or that perspective. But the tools can help you, but you need to be actively involved and actively discussing this. So there are good tools around and good practice examples, but that can help you. But I think to decide and to work on your own problem or your own thing, you can take the examples from around and scale it up. So I hope that in this project you will also invite the necessary stakeholders, and and this is also for exchange of knowledge and learning. It's important for that, I would say.
Right. Thank you, Hildegard. Yeah, real focus on the users of these tools, which is, we mustn't forget, of course. Eva, would you like to add from your side?
Yeah, thanks. In addition, what just really well said. Yes, I would like to mention the importance of ecological monitoring and impact assessment tools. And the other point is the integration of transparent environmental policy. So concerning the first one, this type of tool involve continuous monitoring of biodiversity in transport corridor using different type of technology like sensor, camera, GIS technologies to, let's say, are important because they try to assess ecological impact. So they are used before, during, and after the construction of the transport infrastructure. Of course, early detection of biodiversity loss enables adaptive management strategies that ensure a minimal disruption of ecosystems. And on this, I came across European Commission Life in Nature program that supports this type of projects. I would like also to mention the EU Biodiversity Strategy Action Tracker. So the EU Biodiversity Strategy for 2030, in this, let's say, plan, the EU and member states committed to implement more than 100 actions by 2030. And this platform dashboard is designed to track the progress. So it's possible to see, even if last update was almost a year ago, in the website of the European Commission, the clear transparency is about targets, sub-target indicators. So of course, this would help also in particular to citizens, not only to policymakers at a different level of governance. I would like also to mention the EU Biodiversity Strategy Dashboard that also mentioned in the strategy for 2030. The second point was about the importance of integration of transparent environmental policies. So integration involves ensuring that transport planning, environmental protection are aligned at both European and national levels. Sometimes it could be possible that are not completely aligned, that one prevents the application of the other, or at least create delays in the, let's say, protection of biodiversities. So environmental impact assessment and strategic environmental assessment are mandated for, of course, major transport infrastructure project, ensuring that biodiversity is a key consideration. So this is important. And the last element that to to keep with the time, I would like to share is that, yes, the tools are, of course, important, but should be, at the same time, should be calibrated based on the type of audience. And also the difficulty, the easiness to use it, of course, to understand it should be calibrated if we are talking to a scientific audience, a policymaker, or a citizens. So I think that the three layer and the industries, of course, are important at the same level. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Eva. Yeah, it sounds like there's lots of interesting tools out there already that we really need to make sure we've got mapped and understood this whole landscape. So thanks for sharing that. That's great.
Welcome.
Okay, so we'll move perhaps now on to bring in the climate change adaptation theme a little bit more. We talked about this in the work packages already, and in particular in work package 3. So perhaps Adil, I'm hoping that you've got some thoughts on the adaptation theme, how we can really enhance climate change resilience in infrastructure while sort of still bringing that biodiversity benefit. So your thoughts are really welcome on this.
Thank you. Yeah, indeed, we all know, unfortunately, that warming occurs much faster than was ever planned. And we see as human beings, of course, the impact very clearly. But it has also very significant impact on the infrastructure. In particular, I talk about what I know is the energy infrastructures. There are different impacts. The first are, of course, direct impacts, and it impacts, of course, it has a lot of impact on the water cycles, and the water is extremely important for many, I would say, energy generation technologies. Of course, hydropower is one, but we often tend to forget that the water is absolutely essential for the cooling on nuclear power stations. And very few people know that 2 years ago, the France had to reduce very significantly its power generation because the lack of fresh water in the rivers. So we could see to what extent, if this trend is continuing, which is obviously very likely, how it will really impact our capacity both to produce energy, but also to transport and distribute it, because transport network, the power network, also the capacity is really dependent on the temperature of the wire, basically. So we see all this impact. Additional to that, there are indirect impacts, of course, because the warming is, of course, affecting very significantly the consumption patterns. Just think about air conditioning. This is quite obvious, but also it changes the behaviors. Remote working is, for instance, something which is also changing the consumption pattern. So in many respects, I think it's very important when we think about transition to integrate not only the impact that we have in terms of greenhouse gas emissions and impact on biodiversity, but also to think about what will be the impact of the warming on the infrastructure we need to build to embed really the notion of resilience within the concept and the design of what we are implementing.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, the interdependence between energy and railways certainly is there with many.
Absolutely, that's very obvious. That's very obvious.
Yeah, great, thank you. Okay, I'll open the rest of the panel if anyone wants to contribute, add to that. Then open your mic, and yeah, Elke, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I think we should also in that focus on the measures that we are taking to make our infrastructure more resilient. For example, due to stronger weather occasions, strong rainfalls, we have a lot. So we are starting to build the for the off run of the water, the culverts bigger. So if we do so for the resilience of the infrastructure, we should be aware to do it in a way that it also helps biodiversity, maybe for a migration path or something. So I think we have to focus on measures that help both. So we can increase the resilience of the infrastructure and simultaneously help biodiversity.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Any more to add to that? No, so I'll move on perhaps to more like the regulation space now. So the policy, the laws, the regulations that are sort of influencing our progress and on biodiversity in infrastructure. So I'll come perhaps back to you, Elke, if that's okay. If you could comment a little bit, particularly perhaps on the nature restoration law or any other kind of part of policy and regulations that's sort of influencing this this context.
Yeah, well, I think the regulations and the policy is the main and the first and the uppest issue that we need for the implementation of whatever we do. In my normal job, I work in the administration on the motorway side, and we do approve new projects. And we couldn't do what we are doing if we didn't have that strong laws that we have to fulfill. Administration always has to act according to the laws. So if we don't have the laws and the regulations, we can't do that much. The second thing I think that is very important, and I mentioned that in my starting statement, is the political will. You can have good laws, but it very much depends on the political will that is there, if and how much you can implement or not, how much you can emphasize biodiversity context. And coming to the nature restoration law, to be honest, I can't predict at the moment how much it will help influence and how it will be implemented in the different countries. I can only speak for Austria. We do have our internal issues because nature conservation in Austria is not a national law, but we have the competence in the 9 counties. So we are a very small country with 9 different laws. The implementation plans that we have to do according the restoration law should be national. So there are a lot of interests coming together. I really hope that it helps to implement all the aims that have already been there in the Kunming-Montreal Protocol, but also in the biodiversity strategy. But it brings me back to the political will, and according to the political will, I think it will be implemented better or worse. So we will see. I hope that we have a good opportunity to use.
Thank you. Joseph, I'll give you the floor to perhaps build on that.
Yeah, thanks. So I can talk a bit here about the UN Environment Assembly resolutions on sustainable and resilient infrastructure from more of a global perspective, if that's helpful. So the latest resolution there, it recognizes the role of sustainable and resilient infrastructure for addressing climate change, biodiversity loss, pollution, and desertification as well. So that provides an initial enabling environment really for policymakers and governments around the world, and an impetus to implement more sustainable infrastructure. Specifically, it also encourages countries to promote investment in nature-based solutions. So that's well reflected in there. And it mentions nature-based solutions for delivering infrastructure services and improving ecosystem services, but also from a socioeconomic perspective, so for employment creation and accelerating the SDGs as well more broadly. And so in terms of implementing this resolution and progress on that, UNEP has been working with international partners around the world to promote tools and guidelines and best practices, which is also outlined specifically in the resolution as well. So that's some specific progress that we can point to from a very global perspective, let's say. And there's also some references in there as well to decisions from the Convention on Biological Diversity more broadly on mainstreaming biodiversity considerations into energy and infrastructure sectors. So hopefully, yeah, that gives a flavour from the UN perspective.
Great, thank you. It's clearly a key part of this project, isn't it, to really sort of look at how we can influence this. So thanks for your comments so far. And I'm going to come to now the last topic before we close up, really more around looking to the work package 5 really, and the societal changes piece. And I'll come to Eva and Hildegard perhaps in that order, if that's okay. Really want to hear, what do you think we should be talking about in terms of social challenges in this context? Are there gaps? Are there conflicts? Perhaps you can talk a little bit about some case studies. Eva.
Yes, thanks, Lucy. Yes, so I'm happy to see that in Symbiosis there is a dedicated task, the number 5, if I'm not wrong, about the societal challenges. So it's quite important to set the scene for the operational tools and the data collection, etc. So what developing a sustainable transport system presents, in my view, several societal challenges, and I would like to recall them through keywords. Even if it looks a little bit naive, I would call environment, equity, safety, accessibility, public acceptance and awareness, and last but not the least, in particular in this historical moment, the economic aspects. So concerning the environment and related environmental impact to be considered, balancing the development of new infrastructure or maintaining of the existing infrastructure with the preservation of natural habitats and biodiversity is crucial. So the first aspect is related to this element, the environment. Then the second one was equity, safety, and accessibility, even including human health, ensuring that sustainable transport options are safe, accessible to all segments of society, including marginalized and low-income communities. It can be challenging, but I believe necessary. So in this, investigated in detail, which are the, let's say, detailed trends is essential. Is essential. Also the public acceptance or and the awareness about biodiversity and natural conservations. So gaining widespread public support and changing long-standing travel behavior that is not easy, as was mentioned, and preferences of people can be difficult. At the same time, it's essential to raise the awareness. The public is already demonstrated to be active and, of course, to be able to change transport behavior. Let's imagine the development of carpooling or car sharing, bike sharing, or whatever. So also these, as well as the electrification and the automation, are trends that should be considered in the analysis. Last but not the least, of course, also the economic aspect. So the transition to sustainable transport system from the existing one may require significant investment and can also impact traditional transport sectors. So in my view, it's needed a balance between the economic costs of transitioning with the potential, of course, of new creation, economic growth. So, of course, these challenges require careful planning and collaboration between government, community, industries to create inclusive and effective solutions. How to do this? Through, in my opinion, continuing monitoring and feedback, data collection, impact assessment, not only ex ante, but also ex post in order to feed the entire cycle of the policy evaluation. How do regulatory gaps or conflicts affect this sector? I would just quickly recall that conflicting regulation, so it's important to let's say, to identify potential conflicting regulation because can lead to delays in project approvals and increased cost due to the need for additional compliance measures. Also, regulatory gap can result in inconsistent standards across region, and also considering the multi-level governance structure could be even worse. And also there could be also innovation barriers. So regulatory conflicts can also hinder the adoption of new technologies and innovation solutions. That is, of course, something that we don't want. Last but not the least is also environmental social impact that against with regulation, conflicting regulation can lead to inadequate protection of environmental and societal interests that we cannot allow, in particular in these historical moments.
Right, thank you.
Thanks.
Hildegard, if you want to build on that.
Yeah, I think Eva had a very comprehensive overview of many points I also wanted to raise here, but maybe I would like to add on that that we might have a look on the different attitudes of urban and rural population towards this topic, because we have landowners or the agricultural sector, forestry sector. If we look at the, for example, railway or the development of renewable energies, we need to really be careful of where we extend and where we put this renewable energy. I mean, we all agree that it is needed, but I think this is also something that that really needs a lot of awareness raising and a lot of explanations why this would benefit to the people, why to protect also the areas beyond the railway tracks, to also allow wildlife connectivity, let's say. I think here we need to really carefully look at, because we have a lot of brownfields already or wastelands or whatever where we could develop something and not go into the new and green area again. And this also involves conflict management, as Eva said already, because we have too many interests. And I think awareness raising is also key on that. So I would also see in terms of transportation, the individual and the public transport. Of course, we support all the train transportation. We as WWF are mainly traveling by train and avoid flights and so on. But we also need to see what are the problems in the rural area where maybe rail transportation for the last mile is not possible. Maybe this could be also a topic here, because and also in terms of land use, I mean, we need to be aware that this is a finite resource we have. So especially, for example, in Austria, where our country is quite densely populated. So this is what I wanted to say.
Thank you. It's clear that it's quite complex, isn't it? So thank you. It's really helpful to open that conversation. But I think we've got I've got 10 minutes left. So that means I've got 10 minutes to open to the floor now to see if there's any questions from the audience for our panel or reflections on some of your comments that you've made today. So I'm looking to a slightly tired audience, perhaps, but in the afternoon, to see if there's some comments, some reflections, or questions for the online panel while we have them on. Well, I think part of the people in the room did help select the questions that you've already been asked. So I think that means that we've probably covered everything that everyone was really excited to hear from you about. So I think there's no more questions from the room for you. So all there is left to do is thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your insights. Please send all your notes because while we've been recording, all those notes that you've just shared with us would be really helpful to make sure that we've got a really good, accurate record of some of your inputs at this early stage. But yeah, we can thank the panel.
Thank to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of you. I'm looking forward to working together.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Same from my side, and it was a very interesting afternoon. I'm very comprehensive, and I'm looking forward to see the progress of this project.
Great.